This week, social media has been filled with conversations about the Carmelo Anthony's case. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has something to say. Everybody is talking about accountability, consequences, decision, race, and so much more. But one thing I've learned is that it's always easier to evaluate somebody else's situations and choices than it is to examine our own. And that's exactly where we're starting today. Because before we talk about what other people need to fix, maybe we need to ask ourselves, what truth about ourselves have we been avoiding? Welcome back to Transparency, Owning Your Impact in Relationships. And I'm your host, Tamiko Michelle. First of all, let me start out by saying thank you. Thank you to everybody who listened, shared, supported, commented, sent messages, and took this journey with me through seasons 1 and 2. Because these conversations have stretched me just as much as they've challenged you. And honestly, that's what transparency is all about. It forces all of us to look at things we would rather avoid. Season 1 challenged us to think differently about our relationships. And season 2, I wanted to start breaking the relationships down. And the goal was to start on our journey navigating through relationships, one relationship at a time, with the first one being the relationship with God. And now here we are in a new season. I know I said that I was going to extend season 2. No, I'm going to give this relationship a season of its own. This season might be the hardest one yet. Not because the conversations are more complicated, not because the topics are deeper, but because this season requires something many people spend their entire lives avoiding, and that's looking in the mirror. See, it's easy to identify what everybody else needs to work on. Easy. It's easy to talk about what they should have done, could have done, and would have done differently. Easy. Easy. It's easy to point out other people's patterns, mistakes, and shortcomings. Super easy. But what happens when the spotlight shifts? What happens when the conversation is no longer about them? What happens when the person sitting in the hot seat is you? Because if we're being transparent, a lot of people know how to evaluate everybody else, but we don't even know ourselves. We know everybody else's triggers. We know everybody else's business. We know everybody else's habits and flaws. But what are you afraid of? What are you avoiding? What keeps you up at night? What lie have you been telling yourself? And suddenly, the room gets quiet. Because self-awareness is a different kind of work. It requires self-reflection. It requires honesty. It requires accountability. And just a sidebar, I have a women's devotional that consists of a scripture, a reflection, journaling, a task. And it can also be found on Amazon just as my book. But I also have a friend that's been working through the journal. And she has told me more than once that sometimes she has to skip over certain journaling tasks because it forces her to reflect on some things that she doesn't want to reflect on. And go back and revisit some places and spaces that are just too overwhelming. End of sidebar. Just wanted to throw that out there because it was intentional when I made it. It was a book of self-awareness and reflection. Because this is what I know. Self-awareness requires people to stop running from themselves. When you become self-aware, guys, you have to face it. Because honestly, some people have spent so much time trying to fix everybody else that they've never taken the time to understand themselves. This season is about the relationship you have with you. Every boundary, every friendship, Every relationship, every dream, fear, habit, insecurity, every version of your life. Because whether people realize it or not, the relationship you have with yourself affects everything. Some people don't trust themselves. Y'all, some people don't like themselves. Some people don't know themselves. Some people have abandoned themselves so many times that they don't even recognize it anymore. And that's what we're going to talk about over the course of the next 5 weeks. Not perfection, not pretending, not performance, but transparency, real transparency. The kind that happens when nobody else is around. The kind that asks difficult questions. The kind that forces growth. The kind that makes people confront truths they've been avoiding. And if you stay with me over the next 5 weeks, I truly believe these conversations are going to challenge you. Not because I'm giving you the answers, but because I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to ask questions that make you think. I'm going to ask questions that make you pause. Questions that make you look inward instead of outward. Because healing starts there. Change starts there. And to be honest, the relationship you have with yourself deserves just as much attention as every other relationship in your life. So let's start with the question, because I told you I was going to ask questions. How can you heal someone you're still lying to? Yeah, that's right. I asked it. Today's episode is called You Can't Heal Someone You Keep Lying to. Especially when the person we're talking about is you. Healing cannot begin where dishonesty still exists. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. Now, before y'all log off and say, I don't lie to myself. I'll catch her the next episode. Stay with me. Just stay with me. I'm going somewhere. Because self-deception doesn't always sound like a lie. Sometimes it sounds like excuses. Sometimes it sounds like denial. Sometimes it sounds like minimizing. Sometimes it sounds like pretending you're okay because dealing with the truth is overwhelming. Got another question. How many times have you said I'm fine when you're not? How many times? Okay. How many times have you said it doesn't bother me? I'm guilty of that one. How many times have you said it doesn't bother me when it really did? I'm fishing now, right? Last question for now. How many times have you convinced yourself I'm over it? I'm done. When you were still carrying it emotionally. How many times? Once? Twice? Too many to count? Now, I will admit I am a big advocate for therapy. It actually helped me navigate through some tunnels in my life. But what I did learn is that healing doesn't just start with therapy. Healing starts with honesty. Because you cannot heal the hurt you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot heal wounds you keep pretending don't exist. And you cannot heal a version of yourself that you're unwilling to tell the truth to. I do think, however, that one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is because they keep trying to heal from things they haven't fully admitted happened. Keep trying to move forward while refusing to process what happened behind them. And unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. Pain ignored is not pain healed. It's just pain put off till later. Buried under other stuff that we pack on top of it. That's all. Some people have become experts at distracting themselves. They stay busy, occupied, entertained. Not because they're healed, but because silence might force them to confront some things they've been avoiding. I know it hurts, yeah. Tough realization. But that's why some people hate being alone. Not because they dislike solitude, but because solitude removes distractions. You see, when silence is present and the music is on pause and the television is turned off and it's just you, yourself, and quietness, here comes the thoughts. Here comes the moments that you play over and over in your head. Here comes the tears, the guilt, the shame, the anger, the sadness. Because solitude removes distractions. And when distractions disappear, guess what pops up? Truth. And the truth starts talking. Truth starts asking questions. Questions like, why are you still settling? Why are you still tolerating this or that? Why are you still pretending that doesn't hurt you? This person doesn't hurt you. Why are you still shrinking yourself to make other people comfortable? Why do I keep choosing the wrong people to be in my life? And why can't I let them go? Am I really that bad? Maybe I don't deserve better. Is that it? And before I go any further, I want you to sit with this for a second. I'm not talking to your spouse, your children, not your friends, not your coworkers. You. What truth about yourself have you been avoiding because admitting it will require you to change and do something different? Take a moment and really think about it. Because for some of us, the answer isn't going to be comfortable. For some, the truth is you're overwhelmed. The truth is you're unhappy. For some, the truth is you've outgrown a season you're still trying to hold on to because that's when you felt the most relevant. For some people, the truth is you're waiting for life to change while refusing to change yourself. Whatever your answer is, don't run from it. Because healing begins the moment truth starts asking those uncomfortable questions. And those are the conversations people spend years avoiding. Because truth requires responsibility. And once you admit that you're overwhelmed, now you have to decide what you're going to do about it. Once you admit you're hurt, now you have to confront it. Once you admit you're settling, now you have to decide if you're willing to change it or continue to settle. Hard decisions that you have to make for yourself. And the reason honesty is so powerful, because honesty removes excuses. And that's why people avoid it. Because as long as you stay in denial, you don't have to take action. You could just continue to pretend. But you see, growth doesn't happen in denial. It happens in awareness. It happens when you stop blaming everybody else long enough to ask yourself, what role am I playing in my own suffering? Now, let me be clear. This isn't about blaming yourself for everything. This isn't about taking responsibility for what other people did. This is all about taking responsibility for what you're doing with it now. Because some of us didn't choose what happened to us. But we do have a choice about what happens next. And healing begins the moment we stop running from that responsibility. Another thing that I've learned is that the relationship you have with yourself sets the standard for every other relationship in your life. Think about it. If you constantly abandon yourself, you would tolerate people abandoning you. If you don't trust yourself, you'll constantly need validation from others. If you don't respect yourself, you'll settle for relationships that lack respect. If you keep lying to yourself, you'll ignore the truth when other people show it to you over and over. The relationship with yourself matters more than you realize, because you're the one person you're guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with. Think about it. Think about what I just said. You're the only person that you are guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with. And yet, some people know everybody else better than they know themselves. Not your neighbor, not your spouse, not your friend. You. Whatever it is, healing starts there. Not when you're ready, not when it's convenient, not when everybody else understands. It starts with honesty. Because you can't heal somebody you keep lying to. And if this season is going to be different, if your life is going to be different, if your relationships are going to be different, then it starts with the relationship you have with yourself. But before we go, let me tell you where we're headed this season. I'm so excited. So excited. Over the next 5 weeks, we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations, and you may not like me much thereafter. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I am still going to go deep. Because some of us are messed up, y'all, due to the lack of self-awareness. We're going to talk about the lies that we tell ourselves. We're going to talk about the version of ourselves we've outgrown but keep returning to. We're going to talk about the wounds that have become part of our identity. We're going to talk about the way we speak to ourselves when nobody else is listening. We're going to talk about the promises we keep breaking to ourselves. We're going to end this season by talking about the person that we're becoming. So here's what's coming up. Episode 2. The title is going to be You've Outgrown It, but you keep going back. Episode 3. Stop introducing yourself using your wounds. Episode 4. Your inner critic has been talking too long. Tell them to be quiet. Episode 5. You keep breaking promises to yourself. Why? In episode 6, meeting the person you're becoming. Woo, I can't wait. I can't wait. Because my prayer is that by the end of this season, you won't just know yourself better, you'll trust yourself better. You'll be more honest with yourself. More importantly, you'll understand yourself better. And hopefully you'll be closer to becoming the person you've been praying to become. Thank you for joining me for the first episode of season 3. I hope this conversation challenged you. I hope it made you think. And most importantly, I hope it made you tell yourself the truth. Because healing begins the moment honesty enters the room. I'll see you next episode. This is transparency. Real transparency. Real conversations. Real healing. Real growth.